Hello and welcome to Franchise X Scale Your Future, brought to you by Live Mint in collaboration with 100x Growth Partners by Expertrons. In this episode, we're focusing on one of the most decisive aspects of scaling any franchising network, which is funding. How to finance expansion sustainably, how to sequence investments, and how to avoid the early stage cash flow pitfalls that stall growth. To break this down, we have two leaders who work in franchising every day. Mr. Jatin, Vice President and Business Head of VLCC Limited, who brings deep operational expertise from scaling beauty and wellness formats. And we have Jatin Solanki, co-founder of 100 Export Partners, the world's first franchise accelerator that scales brands to 100 plus outlets, opens fundraising and lender access. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Paulomi. Thanks for inviting us. And hi, Mr. Rai. Good to be here with you on the session.
Yeah, same here, Jatin. And thanks a lot, Paulomi, for taking us on this platform.
You're most welcome. We will, get into the discussion now to probably understand this concept a little better. My first question is to you, Mr. Rai. Clearly coming from this sort of a vast experience that you bring in, we'd really like to know, we'd really like to get this advice for, early investors or people who are trying to franchise, who are at the beginning of their business opportunities. What's the smartest way for a first time franchisor in a beauty and wellness industry or any other industry that you think, how can they work around capex versus working capital when planning their first few outlets?
Uh, we, as a franchisor in beauty and wellness, need to be aware of where are we going to franchise our outlet. That's one. Where do we have our presence as a franchisor, and will we be able to extend our support in the territories wherein we are looking forward to franchise out our brand? That's one of the most important factors. Now comes what you have asked me, which is equipment. I mean, this working capital versus the capex.
Yes.
Uh, Capex is very much important because not only that in case you are a franchisor and you want to go in for the franchising of the new outlets, uh, be it an asset light model, the franchising way, despite that you will require certain amount of capex that is going to be required as a franchisor, and at the same time the person who is taking up your business
Right.
needs to ensure that that person actually carries a right amount of capex as well as equipments to procure the equipments and create the store that actually caters to your requirements and run the stores as per the SOPs. And operational working capital is very important because irrespective how best you have made your store till the time you have a requisite opex, which is operational expense, is always going to be there. And I mean, till the time you have a good working capital, you'll never be able to justify your business operations. That's for sure. That goes without saying. And that's what I have to say. Largely, both of these things are important for any new franchise business. Jatin, your views on it? I mean, I'll be more than happy to hear it as well.
Yeah. No, I think, Mr. Rai, I think very well said. Of course, I mean, Capex is one part of the process, but then operational expense is something which is required to run the business. And we have, of course, worked with multiple brands and, of course, help them accelerate. And we have actually seen that um operational expense is equally important. Like if you're actually investing in the right manpower, you're investing in right marketing on monthly basis, that's what is actually going to get you the ROI, because break even becomes really critical. At what point do you actually break even and you're able to recoup your expenses, and when do you actually operationally break even, and when are you actually able to kind of get back on your capex? And those are some of the things, of course, someone needs to kind of focus on while they are, of course, planning to kind of make a model for franchising. and hence, of course, I mean, something, of course, which needs to be put together even before thinking of starting their own franchising expansion, because before someone kind of gets onto starting that, they need to kind of do those POC with their own outlets, need to see that, hey, is my own coffee outlet, or is my own preschool, or is my own salon actually giving a certain break even. And it's not only in a certain uh, single or a two location kind of thing, but as you're kind of expanding and as you're able to kind of do it in multiple locations, you know the nuances of doing it. And once you know the nuances of doing it, actually franchising it makes sense, because now you have the experience of that, how is your kind of business performing in a mall versus in actually a location which is not very prime. And that actually gives you a lot of learning, and those learnings can be put in SOPs and can actually be passed to partners, because unless you have yourself faced those challenges and experiences, passing it or creating an SOP around it and kind of saying that, hey, you've reached a product market fit, it becomes very difficult to kind of create a partner model around it. And hence, of course, running your own store kind of gives you that experience, or running your own outlets kind of give you that experience, that when, what is that period, in how much time will my capex be coming back, and what is that time frame where operational expenses will kind of break even, what kind of resources I need to hire, what kind of marketing I need to do. And once all that experience is there, of course, that helps in the success of the partners as well, because someone who has done it themselves, who has done it in multiple locations, who has actually learned the know-hows of it, scaling becomes far more easier. And hence it is always suggestive for founders to kind of experience it in multiple locations themselves, run it themselves till a certain scale. And that's essentially the product market fit stage, where you then are ready, that, hey, you've already done the 0 to 1 journey, or 1 to 10 journey, and now you're ready for a scaling of, say, 10 to 100, 10 to 1000 kind of journey. Yeah.
True, and at the same time, franchising is not the same that it used to be. That I've got a brand and I will just fetch in the investors and I'll sell off my brand and they're going to run the show for me. So it is
Yeah.
all about the hand holding as well. How
Yeah.
better and how best can you actually handhold your investors to ensure that they not only deliver the financial results, but become your brand ambassadors as well to get in the new partners for the future.
Right.
And gone are the days wherein even when the investors or as a franchisor, you were looking for a space uh, and getting a space from the landlord, and they were charging the exorbitant rentals. I mean, post COVID, the things have changed.
Right.
Wherein instead of even rentals, it has shifted to the revenue sharing,
Right.
and that is something which is only going to add on and to the benefits of working your and opening up your franchisee at low working capital as well.
Wow.
That is something which will benefit you.
Wow.
Right. And
Very well said.
this,
Yeah. Yeah, Pallavi.
yeah, so, Mr. Rai, this brings us to the, next very important question, which is why franchising and how do we go about choosing the right partners, right? So let's take a step back and sort of understand clearly, why should a business franchise at all? And what is the strategic advantage that franchising brings in? Especially if you have to look at it from a beauty and wellness brand specifically.
Okay, that's a very very relevant question, and I'm happy you asked it. Otherwise, I would have told you to ask it from me, maybe. So, see, the biggest need and benefits of a franchising by
Yeah.
any franchisor post they have developed their systems are: one, the franchisor will be able to expand their wings with the new outlets with a reduced capex. I mean, it's going to be an asset light expansion for them. They may not be required to put in their direct money, wherein they end up not only investing in the business but also running the show. They will actually love to hire take on board like-minded individuals who have an inclination for such services and looking forward for our entrepreneurship journey. That's something they should look for, and that's the reason of franchising as well. That's one. There are certain other reasons, something like entry into the difficult or small market, something like, let's say for example, today sitting in Delhi, if I as an organization would want to start up my business expand my business rather in a territory which is bit difficult in nature, maybe northeastern part of India, wherein you have a logistical issues, you have manpower issues, and at times you have certain safety issues as well. So
Right.
opening up a franchisee wherein you have a local partner who understands the dynamics of the territory will only add on to you the benefits that you want to fetch out of your business.
Right.
Uh, Again, there is another thing: infra or a capacity utilization. You already have a team at, as a franchisor, I have a team at my office that takes care of my company owned, company operated business operations. And at the same time, they are not fully utilized.
Right.
I have an HR in place that may not be fully utilized. I have a production facility in place that actually manufactures the beauty products that is not fully utilized. So,
Right.
opening up the franchise stores will actually help me utilize my existing facilities as well.
Right.
Uh, One of the other reasons could be employee motivation. I have loads of employees in my organization that are looking to become entrepreneurs, and beyond a point, I may not be able to do a justification to their growth. So they are the
Yeah.
ones who could be the torch bearers for my brand, because they are both what you call it as ready in terms of understanding my brand as well as running the operations for the brand.
Right.
And one of the big reasons is another one, which is the improved valuation, which JS will be able to tell us better because he's been a part and parcel of this. And last but not the least could be the non-conventional expansions as well. Something like if I want to open up my wellness outlet at an airport, I may not be able to get a property directly, but yes, with the Omda which is already operating at the airport, they may be able to take up my business and run the franchise operations for me from that space.
No, I think
Yeah.
very well said, Mr. I. I think, I mean, you put it in a very beautiful way. Of course, one of these things which Mr. I said, of course, about kind of helping your team members also expand and kind of justify their growth in your organization and by franchising to them. That, of course, is always something which will you already have people who are culturally fit, who understand your brand, and who would want that growth, and kind of helping them to kind of franchise your brand and serve as an extension to your brand. That all, I
Right.
mean, that's of course a very unique and new way of kind of looking around it, and that's of course a very good point which you have brought up. On the other side, of course, some like as a brand, when I'm expanding, the idea is also to make sure that the capital, because of course as a brand I want to expand and I want to say do 500 locations or 1000 locations and even further. But then
Right.
for me to do 500 locations, there's of course a huge investment which is required. Be it I mean, if I have to myself go to these 500 locations, operate these 500 locations, then of course there is a huge investment which is required, huge manpower which is required. Unless and until I do say an equity fundraise, unless and until I'm capital rich as an entity, this expansion is not possible. And that's where the growth is always hindered by the amount of capital which is available, and that's where there's always this conversation between like how fast can you grow, and if you have to grow fast you need capital. And this franchising is essentially a route where you are able to kind of find like-minded people. You're able to kind of find people who believe in your vision, believe in your idea, and who would want to kind of, you're essentially looking for mini entrepreneurs or people in different geographies who can actually represent your brand in those geographies. And that's essentially a route for you to kind of arrange for that capital, hedge your risk, and actually then expand to these locations. Because if you have to expand to these locations, capital is of course becomes the first factor. That without capital you
Right.
cannot go. If you have to start your own say 500 outlets, and you say you're
Right.
already doing 10, 20, 30 outlets in Mumbai of a coffee shop, and you want to
Yeah.
now expand pan India, or if you want to kind of even go outside, for
Yeah.
you to, of course, do that, capital becomes the first kind of hindering point, and franchising essentially becomes that route and provides you that route to hedge your risk, find like-minded people, find micro mini entrepreneurs in these different cities who would actually think about your brand as much as you're thinking. So every morning I'm waking up and thinking that, hey, why my coffee shop is not doing better, or why my preschool brand is not doing better. I would actually, in fact, give you an example. One of the brands we worked with, these were the founders of. I mean, these founders were earlier the people who had actually formed Being Human with Salman Khan, and of course
Okay.
they were doing really. I mean, earlier they had done retail, they had done fast fashion, they had done all that like in their prior experience.
Merchandising. Yeah, there was a lot
Yeah.
of merchandising as well. Yeah.
So they've done that in the past. Unka kafi, they had a lot of those experience. But then when they started their new brand, which was Roar for Good, and again it was in sustainable fashion, when they started doing
Hmm.
that, they were at two like last year they were essentially doing online sales, and they were across these platforms like Amazon and Geo and all these platforms. Offline
Right.
they had not yet touched because they were at their starting. They were just in their starting phase of their revenues, and they were doing decent revenue, but of course they were not at that scale that they could invest in offline, and they wanted to of course do offline. And when we of course consulted them, when we started working with them, they became part of our growth accelerator. We suggested them that they should go for a franchise invested company operated model. And very interestingly, we of course brought them as part of our podcast. We did PR story with them. We started kind of finding partners for them. In the first month we were able to get five partners to invest in their brand for opening FICO stores. And now of course in the next month they'll have these five stores live, and that kind of gives them this opportunity. Like if they had to do it themselves, that investment was not something they could kind of look at doing, that hey, they would open up five stores right away. But now because they are essentially doing it via partners, they already found these five partners, capital problem is solved, and they know how to run stores. They've done Being Human in their prior stint. So they know how to run stores and everything. And now, as the capital problem is solved, they have these five flagship stores which will go live. And now, when they have the flagship stores, they can operate, like they can opt to go for FICO or FOFO or different kind of models as they want to expand. And their goal in
Right.
the next 5 years is to actually cross 1,000 stores in sustainable fashion, and that's where we are of course helping them to grow. And as they grow, of course, equity fundraise is also possible, as Mr. Rai rightly said, that as a brand is increasing its footprint, as it is actually increasing its royalty, its income, like the income of the brand value also increases. Equity fundraise is also possible, because at a very early stage, for a retail kind of setup, or for a retail kind of brand, it becomes difficult to kind of justify valuations. But like when you have certain footprints, when you have certain locations, when you have certain royalties, certain recurring income happening, certain sales happening, that kind of increases the value of your entity, and that helps you kind of also go out and raise funds. And that has actually happened with one of our other brands, where they were in the EV subscription space, and they started working with us in Jan of this year. And within the first 3 months, we were able to get them like 20 franchise partners, and they were able to expand outside of Delhi NCR region. They were only operating in Delhi NCR. And 7 months into their journey with us, we also helped them with their fundraise process. We introduced them to newer investors, our investors. They were essentially able to close a 45 crore round. Roughly $5.4 million is what they closed, with Dell Foundation being one of their lead investors. So expansion, of course, also increases the value of your entity, and also helps you kind of raise equity capital as you move ahead. So yeah, I mean, that's something very critical, and franchising gives you that opportunity to help you expand your brand. Yeah.
Most importantly, I mean, choosing the right partner is the most important thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
As I said, that we would want to give this opportunity to our employees, as in VLCC also we emphasize on that, because my employees who will take up this business will be culturally and functionally best fit for my business.
True.
They are the ones who understand this business any day better than anyone else in the world. And at the same time, I mean, giving you an example of how the VLCC franchise operates, we have two different verticals. One is the VLCC wellness clinics that are into they render the professional services to the end clients in terms of weight loss, inch loss, or salon services and what all. And the other division wherein we franchise is a VLCC institutes, VLCC School of Beauty, wherein we impart skill trainings in beauty and wellness. Uh, Happy to share that most of my franchise partners, they actually own the multiple stores. They are something like as a part of VLCC. They are with us since 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, more
Mhm.
than 10 years old, 15 years old in the system. They have renewed their agreement multiple times, and at the same time have taken up this business opportunities at multiple places because one, they observe a highest degree of compliance. Two, I also am what you call it as more than happy to understand that they will do the business in a similar manner as I do at my cocoa stores. And at the same time, uh, any day better than a new investor, I'll be more than happy to work with them because their learning curve is almost nil, and they'll be able to do a clear justification to the business from day one.
Right.
Very important. Choosing the right partner is very important.
Absolutely. I think very, very well said, Mr. Rai. I think if anyone has to build a sustainable business, if anyone has to kind of not only create partners, but like have a recurring income, build value for the partner and for themselves and for the company, it's very important to kind of find the right kind of partner, because that essentially enables them to, if partner wins in this ecosystem, then of course, I mean, if partner is able to make money and we are able to kind of provide the right kind of support to the partners, of course the mindset needs to be right, the brand understanding needs to be right.
Yeah.
There's no stopping the brand, and of course we have seen that scaling happen in the US, we have seen that happening in China. In India, of course, the paying capacity and everything is yet kind of increasing in tier 2 tier 3 city, and that kind of gives us a large opportunity. You can already see that happening. How this Diwali was actually the largest spending ever happened in the Indian ecosystem, like in the retail space, and majority of that actually happening offline in the retail space. And you can actually, like, if you compare it versus how brands have been doing in the US or in China, that potential is yet to be translated in India, and is still there, which is still coming as we are crossing that capacity, or the per capita income is kind of increasing in multiple cities, especially in tier 2 tier 3 towns. That will essentially accelerate the growth which is possible for the brands which are trying to expand. And you can, of course, we all know these examples of, say, a McDonald's or a Starbucks or a Subway, which has substantially expanded. In China, you can actually see, say, a Luckin's Coffee, which has 23,000 outlets. A Mixu brand, which went public this year, they have 46,000 outlets. And in India, even in India, we have brands like VLCC, and of course others. Like we know a very small brand in Gujarat from Navsari, which has like 200 outlets just in Navsari. Not just in Navsari, but just in Gujarat. And the kind of potential which all these brands pose is really huge. Like what they can do, what they can achieve. The numbers, as I said, the numbers in US and China are substantially large, and we are still talking in thousands. It could very well reach, say, 40,000, 50,000 outlets for a lot of these brands who are doing well in India ecosystem as well, in the Indian ecosystem as well. Yeah.
The only advice is for the franchisors, uh, do not franchise it only for the sake of expansion. Do it if you want to do a real healthy expansion, and at the same time, uh, look for the right set of people, right set of investors who can rely on your brand, whom you can rely on, and who can do a real justification to your business. Don't expand it only for the sake of expansion. And unless and until you trust your own brand and your operations, don't even think of franchising.
So, if you could summarize, Mr. Rai, if you had to say, what are the qualities that matter at an early stage? The qualities that you look for in a partner. What are those three or four things that you would go for with, with the kind of operational experience you have gained, if you had to zero them down into three or four points?
So, uh, okay. So, I'll certainly look for the individuals with a level of retail sector exposure. That's one.
Yeah.
Exposure could be in beauty industry or whatever. I mean, that's immaterial. Retail sector experience is something that actually gives them an understanding of how the business operations work.
Right.
Uh, could be the individuals with the proven entrepreneurship skills. They are already into the business, maybe an XYZ, and
Yeah.
they want to diversify themselves into a new field.
Right.
Uh, Three could be, I mean, the best bet is my own employees and my existing franchise partners. They are the low hanging fruits for me. At the same time, the best bet for me.
Right.
And these days, another thing that is coming up big way is the space facilitators. Uh, with the new buildings and the projects coming up everywhere across the nation, you'll find
Mm-hmm.
that most of the builders, they are themselves willing to take up this franchise business
Yeah.
for the salons. I mean, you go to any new complex that is coming up, the first thing that lands up there is a salon,
Yeah.
a wellness
Yeah.
piece,
I have
because they
noticed that.
know they know that that is something which will attract the woman, and it's going to be a long lasting business. And
Yes. Yes.
space facilitators are the ones that they are themselves taking up this business. Once they take it to a certain level, they either run it keep running that directly, or they sell it off to a third party with the permission of the franchisor.
Right.
The credentials that we look at is that a person who is joining hands with us should carry a level of good credit score, which we are
Mm-hmm.
able to identify through the third party associates, involving
Mm-hmm.
them to check out all these things for us, capable of investing. Obviously, I don't want an investor who, after making 50% of the investments, want to cut off the corners. I'm not keen
Mm-hmm.
on that person. And
Mm-hmm.
the person should have a fairly good reputation in the market, and also the most important, should be willing to work in my store as a team, not as a franchisee, as a business partner. The person should be willing to work in the store as a team. The person should be well aware of how my system operates, how my
Right.
things work. It should not be something like I'm the boss and I'm not the leader. I don't know how the business is operated. We need to ensure that the person undergoes a mandatory induction at our place for a couple of weeks to understand how the actual business operates. I don't want that person to come back to me tomorrow saying, "आपने मेरे को बोला था that your this thing consumption cost is not going to be more than 15%, and I have landed myself at 25," because
Right.
that person is not aware of how the business operations take place and his employees are making fool of him or her. So
Right.
that is something we should not be allowing.
Right.
Yeah, as Mr. Rai rightly said, I mean, the everything needs to be conservative and it needs to be more realistic, and it needs to be based on the assumptions which is already happening at our own stores. So example,
Right.
the previous example which I gave, where say I'm running 10 coffee shops in Mumbai, and I have
Yeah.
certain assumptions that hey, in a location like Thane, this is how
Yeah.
the numbers are coming out, this is how the cost is coming out, this is how the break even is coming out. Based on those real assumption is where I will base my model on, and hence the ROI table will become more realistic for someone who is opening up in say a Pune or a Kochi or Coimbatore, Patna, Ranchi, like whatever place. They'll have some proxy, and they'll have some realistic numbers from the model which I derive, and that's very
Yeah.
essential, that it should not be like a dreamy picture or a dream cell, because of course it is not, I mean, it is a long term association for the partner, for the brand, and it is, I mean, whatever amount the brand, I mean, whatever amount the franchisees is investing on the brand, and that should be considered as the amount of the brand, because if the partner is doing well, the brand value increases, and if the partner doesn't do well, the brand actually degrades, because because if you have and if you even if you have a single partner who has not done well and who is actually kind of affecting negatively to your testimonial, that will then affect more partners being made for your brand. So and hence, like, each of these moving parts need to be put together very smartly, and hence partner, like, taking care of the partner is that very important. And the unit economics and everything, like the ROI table which is made, needs to be as realistic as possible, because I mean, the partner's success is directly linked with the brand success, and if the partner is successful, of course the brand automatically becomes successful. And that's why you see like VLCC, and of course brands who are successful like those, of course, working in a very realistic way with the partners, and actually deriving
Right.
their model from actual operations which is happening at their own stores. And once, like, when it is actually coming from ground reality or ground experience, the model is more realistic, and that kind of sets the partner up for success. And they are aware that, hey, this is going to be the cost, this is going to be the break even, and this is more
Yeah.
realistic, as
Yeah.
realistic as it can get. Yeah.
And I think there is another question that I had for Mr. Rai is that, can you talk a little bit about the localization aspect as to how franchising really helps you localize your business? Like, can you target a certain area that you're looking to expand after you've done your research? It could be just, let's say, to give an example, just one part of Delhi where you think that, can that be done? Can that be sort of strategically planned, that level of localization, if you want to target your business to a very, you know, is that a possibility?
So that's very much possible, and you cannot actually take all your, I mean, a single model at all the locations. You need to actually
Right,
define multiple models.
right.
So let's say, for example, if I mean, in VLCC, we franchise out two types of models, as I said. One is for a VLCC institutes, we call it VLCC
Yeah,
School of Tea, and the other one is VLCC clinics or VLCC salons.
right,
So I cannot actually have my clinics at all the places across Delhi.
right,
At few clusters, I'll be happy to only put up my VLCC salon, which is a VLCC professional salon, because I may not have all the clientele that is required at my clinic at all the nick and corner of Delhi, because they may have their own paying capacities, they may have their own inclination for the level of services. I'll be happy to open up the salon somewhere. At the same time, I'll be happy to open up a full-fledged clinic that comprises of my weight loss as well as the salon setup on the other side of the city. So that is something directly proportional to the multiple factors. One of that happens to be what is the type of client that I'm going to address,
right,
what is their spending capacity, their what you call it as the money that they can put up on my services. How often can they be my customers? Will they be able to take my services? How often the repeated sales will happen? And most importantly, uh, the rental factors as well, because I may not be able to get a space on the same rentals anywhere and everywhere in Delhi.
right,
So that is also one of the factors which will contribute to my healthy expansion. Uh, I mean, if it is Delhi, that's the case. But most important is, if as a franchisor, I want to expand my wings, and if I have my, as a company, as an organization, I have my base in Delhi, and I'm going to expand it for the first time, I'll certainly look for the spaces or the territories which are in and around my existing base, so that I will be able to do a better level of justification in terms of extending my support to them, as
right,
and when required at will. Now,
right,
if I'm based out of Delhi and I'm opening up my first franchise in Coimbatore, trust me, I'm taking a big risk. I'm taking a big risk. I'm putting up my brand name at a risk. I'm putting up the money for my investor at a risk. I need to be
right,
the custodian of two things. One, if I want an investor to be the custodian of my brand name, I need to be equal. I mean, to ensure that I need to be equally be the custodian of his investment as well.
right, right. Yeah, makes
That's
sense. I mean,
that something
that
is very
kind of
important.
hold is needed. That kind of, yeah. Coming back to you, Jatin, what are the key term clauses that founders should pay attention to while onboarding, a franchise?
Yeah. So I, of course, as I think Mr. Rai rightly said, I mean, when you kind of onboard a partner, you're not only giving your brand responsibility to them,
Yeah,
also you have a responsibility to their capital. Of course, agreement and term clauses and all that is essentially uh, after, of course, once there is a complete alignment in terms of that they are aligning with the brand vision, they are aligning with what they have to do with the brand, and they are aligning with how they can kind of create a success story out of it. That's one part. But in the agreement, of course, you may need to hold your end of the bargains, and of course you may want them to hold their end of the bargains, and that's very critical, because one part is agreement on the vision, yes, I want to do it and investing in it, but second part is actually to hold each other accountable, and that's where the agreement and terms of the agreement kind of comes in play. uh, because as so once you define a franchise model, you always know that, hey, there are these six things where we are going to provide support to a franchisee on, and there are these
right.
four things which they need to be held accountable on. And it can be, say, branding needs to be done by the brand, and maybe say the actual sales or the support, operational support, and all that needs to be provided by the franchisee. So it can vary from what kind of model do you have, but then holding it accountable within the agreement terms is one part which is very important. We have actually seen, so in one of our preschool brands cases, they had terms like, there is a certain salary which needs to be paid to the teacher, and you cannot pay anything less than that to the staff. And that was actually added in the so they had these terms which needed to be followed to kind of get a certain guarantee. And that guarantee is essentially that, hey, we will, even like, if you don't want to do the business, we'll buy back the business from, we'll buy the school back from you. But that will
Right,
only be valid if you follow all these things. And
right.
they had to kind of follow the salary clause for the teachers or the staff, because if you cut corners on the salaries, then the quality of education getting
Yeah,
delivered kind of depletes. And so
yeah,
so this is just one such example. There was also one clause which was that the partner needs to kind of come to their own school for, say, 30 hours in a month, which is not a very big ask. But like, if the owner kind of, if the franchise owner kind of forgets about, invests and forgets about the store, and doesn't come to the store or come to the preschool, then of course the chances of accounting error happening, or the quality issues degrading, or chances of any say a cash fraud happening, all of that kind of increases substantially. But like, if a partner is involved even a little bit, say 30 hours in a month is what they are at least visiting their own school, that, of course, the more the involvement, the better the results would be. And the better the results is, it'll be better for the brand, it'll be better for the partner as well. So I mean, again, these terms are just things which you need to kind of think upon, that what a partner needs to take care of, what you need to take care of. But over and above all of that, like, the most important part is that alignment between the partner and the brand, that, hey, yes, they want to do a certain things, hey, yes, there is this ROI which is expected, but that ROI cannot be coming without involvement, or without the expected role which a partner has to play. And that's where these terms kind of comes in play, and kind of makes, I mean, all this needs to be tied together, the support needs to be provided, their role which has to be played in the system needs to be enforced through, say, agreement, through, say, regular follow-ups, through, say, the support which is being provided to them. So it needs to be a mix of all of this to put together, because I mean, at the end of the day, it is essentially a paper agreement, and the value of that paper is as good as a toilet paper. And we all have seen that, I mean, terms, I mean, agreements are as good as, like, if someone wants to hold it, they'll hold it, and if they don't want to hold it, they'll just tear it down, and they'll say that, hey, I'm not accountable to anything. But more important is, are you able to provide that support? Are they able to kind of rely on your brand, and are they actually holding their end of the bargain? Because in that agreement or in that association, each of them want something for each other, and the
Right.
company want certain ROI, would want certain break even, would want capex returned, would want to make say 2 lakh, 3 lakh, 4 lakh a month for themselves, and the brand would of course want them to do better because there is an ongoing royalty for them, or there is an ongoing product sales for them. So
Right.
when both ends of the bargain is kind of held tightly, paper just becomes a, I mean, agreement, or the terms just becomes one representation or an additional factor to kind of seal the deal. But over and above that, of course, both the brand and the partners need to kind of hold their end of the bargain, and only then the partner is successful, the brand is successful, everyone in the ecosystem becomes successful that way. Yeah.
In franchising, it is always said that the agreements are always for bad times. They are never for good times.
True.
And as a matter of fact, I have come across many leads wherein the filthy rich investors, they come to me and say that okay, we are willing to take up your business opportunity because I want to ensure that my family or my wife gets involved at all the times, and she is kept busy. That's the most dangerous scenario. I mean, we ensure that such a person is never my franchise partner because he's going to play around with my brand.
Mhm. Yeah.
So.
Yes.
So that is,
Yes.
that is something, all the SOPs will be violated in case a family, it becomes a family business. It has to be a entity that is going to run very, very professionally and as per the SOPs and the compliances which have been laid down under obligations that have been defined as a part of the agreement, will certainly fetch the desired results that are expected out of the entire business model which was explained before the signing of the agreement.
Right.
Simple.
And taking from what you just said, what are the operational risk controls that matter most? I mean, you can definitely share, give us an example from the wellness industry, but what are the operational risk controls that we really need to look into, Mr. Rai?
Right set of manpower, that's the most important because it's a make or break. It's a wellness piece. Either you're doing the services correctly or you're creating a disaster. An entire wellness actually revolves around and works on the repeat purchase. Once the experience is bad, obviously you will never take the services again and the business customer is gone. You will not only lose one customer, you lose the multiple ones. And right set of manpower will ensure that not only you are able to justify the services that are being rendered to the client, but also
Yeah.
ensure there is the highest degree of cross selling and upselling as well. If you are able to deliver the services, our services in a proper manner, that's most important. Two is right set of infrastructure and equipments. You cannot be getting the corners. If at all a hair dryer is required, which has to be a 1200 watt, you cannot be actually purchasing a 600 watt hair dryer. That will not be doing a clear justification to the services again. Apart from that, is something like you need to ensure that you're not cutting corners in terms of using the right set of products that are required to render the services on the end clients. And most importantly, a trust that is to be built up between a franchisee and a franchisor in terms of whatever business that I am doing as a franchisee. I need to ensure that the same business is reported correctly to the franchisor. There is no harm in saying that I don't know, if you can please teach me this thing once again, or maybe do a level of orientation training for my staff once again. No harm in doing that on account of the
Multiple.
franchisee, account of a
Yeah.
franchisor. So these few factors, once these are aligned, there is nothing that can stop you from becoming a successful franchisor, for sure.
And if we were to look at a case playbook for that matter, could you elaborate a little bit on the typical tier two VLCC style rollout? Like if there is any instance, any town that you sort of went and ventured out into, if you could give us a case playbook.
So, if you actually ask me, these tier two towns and three towns, these are better markets because one, these are the markets that always had the unorganized sector players in them.
Right.
So taking up a brand like VLCC or any other brand which is into salon or a wellness category will certainly have and carry a certain level of benefit, because people they perceive our brands to be the luxury ones, super luxury ones. But once you enter into the store, you will find that the cost at which we render the services are almost in tandem with the cost at which a local brand maybe is offering the services. Only difference is we are rendering it in a better way as compared to what they do from their stores. And tier 2 towns are any day, as I said, they are better off in terms of business potential, better off in terms of unit economics, because there are certain fixed costs, there are certain variable costs, and
Right.
those fixed costs will give you a big level of benefit when you actually go to a tier 2 town. Be it at VLCC or be it at my previous assignment that I was there with Domino's. I mean, that was the same scenario which we observed. And tier 2 town, something like, if you talk about tier 2 town, I don't know what is your definition of it. For my definition of tier 2, it could be something like Agra. It could be
Mm-hmm.
something like Jalandhar. It could be something
Bareilly. Yeah.
like Patwara, which could be a tier 3 town maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about tier 2 and tier 3. And these are doing better business. I mean, my VLCC Institute, School of Beauty, which is there in Fagwada,
Mm-hmm.
or which is there in Rudrapur, which is a tier 3 town, does a
Mm-hmm.
better sale as compared to a institute of VLCC, which is there in one of the institutes, which is there in Noida. Because people have more inclination for taking up the better quality of services from a better brand. And
Aspirational. Yeah.
for them, you are something which is, I mean, it's a first mover's advantage that you will
Right.
certainly get when you move on to a tier 2 or a tier 3 town with a good brand name. In nutshell, if I
Right.
have to tell you, for me, those are more promising markets. Today, given an opportunity, if I have to make an investment in Domino's or in VLCC or in any other brand, I'll
Yeah.
might as well would like to put that money in a tier 2 or a tier 3 town as compared to a metro.
Because they have, let's just say it's a very aspirational market,
Super
and
aspiration.
super aspirational market, and in terms of players, they are, you still have a fewer player, like you said, the first mover advantage is something that you can really look at. and
Absolutely.
and coming to you, Jatin, how do you think a brand should plan the financial sequencing, like when you're just going from, let's say, 10 to 50 outlets? Like Mr. Rai said, that if you take a tier two, you can give us an example of a tier two city yourself, so that it can we can get the entire picture. Like if you were to move from 10 outlets, now you want to expand another 40 additional outlets in tier two cities in India, then what are you looking at in terms of financial sequencing? Jatin, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Sorry, I was in mute. Yeah. So essentially, what is important for me is, of course, when you are at 10 outlet, you are relatively newer brand, and of course, your presence is not that much known. And some
Hmm.
of these factors which are important is also brand presence out there, for anyone to know that, hey, how your 10 outlets are doing, what is your USP, how you're different from anyone else. It's always very important to assess even before franchising, that is it the right stage to kind of scale, or is it the right stage to franchise, because that's like a very primary function which a founder needs to assess, because until and unless there is the right product market fit, until and unless you have, say, cracked marketing, you have cracked sales, you have cracked product love, uh, expanding before that will only kind of lead to a wrong expectation from the partner, and will
Yeah.
essentially then lead to downfall of the brand. And hence it is very important to kind of be at a certain scale, at least, which I would say can be measured through how the revenue is, how the ratings are, how your own outlets are performing, and are you able to kind of scale from 10 to 20 outlets, and how much time is it taking, how much time is it taking
Right.
to break even.
Right.
And what is of course your USP, because in most of these markets, be it a QSR market or a preschool market or a salon market or like any of these markets, are also crowded as a space. So what is your USP also becomes a very critical question to answer, and that these are some of the factors a founder needs to think on even before thinking on whether I should expand at this stage or I should start franchising at this stage. But yeah, I mean, as soon as they have measured some of these parameters and know that, hey, we are already crossing, say, 5 crores of revenue in our 10 outlets, and we know that, hey, there's a lot of product love, there is 5-star rating on most of our, say, menu items or most of our offerings, or our admissions are increasing 40% year on year or 20% quarter on quarter. And if that kind of love is already seen for the brand, and they know that, hey, there is the product market fit is there, they know how to crack it. Only capital is something which is kind of coming in the way of them expanding from their 10 outlets to 50 outlets. And
Right.
that is the stage they should of course consider franchising. That's one part. And now to take care of things like branding or their presence, of course, what how we work with our brand closely is, of course, we take care of, when we get associated with them, we of course partner with them on a podcast. We talk about their mission, vision. We talk about their existing stores, how are they performing, all of that. And that kind
Yeah.
of gives a very clear picture of, because a lot of these things in today's world needs to be out there and needs to be marketed, and until and unless you've done that marketing for your brand, no one will know about your brand. And just what podcast is just like the first step to it. Say a podcast, creating reels or content out of it, and then of course also doing a PR story around it. And once you have that presence in, say, Hindustan Times or some of these news outlets, uh, a partner who is investing in you and who is looking at you from that standpoint is finding you, finding your content, finding your podcast, finding your PR story, is more certain about investing in a brand, because they are essentially not only, I mean, they're in some cases they are also putting their life savings onto partnering with this brand, and kind of becoming a partner so that they can have this earning potential in a tier 2, tier 3 city. Mr. Rai
Right.
rightly said that in a tier 2, tier 3 city, of course, for them it is essentially also about kind of the earning potential, what they can earn and in that regards.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, kind of doing the right kind of branding helps convince the partner even further. So that's kind of the first step we do. And then of course, forming the right team on the sales and marketing end, using AI in marketing, using AI in sales, because given today's world, you see a lot of these things happen at a lower and lower CAC. You have AI agents which can take care of sales calls. You have AI tools which can take care of branding, which can take care of some part of marketing, which can actually create your ad videos or even create your ad
Yeah. Like a
images,
notebook LM. Yeah.
yeah, which are actually going to go on your Meta account or a Google account. So
Right.
as much as you can control your CAC on sales and marketing end, you're able to kind of find the right partners, be it through organic way or be it through paid marketing way. You
Yeah.
essentially end up converting them, and you're able to find partners who believe in your vision, mission, and who are actually becoming your partner in the journey. Are able to kind of build a business for themselves and are also able to help you grow your own brand as well. Yeah,
Thanks for that. Those insights. We have some interesting questions from the audience,
sure.
which I will pull up now. Just give me a second.
Yeah. So, Mr. I, if you want to answer this one, or if you want me to take it.
See, a relevant one, the legal aspects that have been looked upon while entering into a franchise model is something. One, as a franchisor, I should have a clear entity. It, I mean, if I've already formed up a private limited company, I need to ensure that all my papers are in place, all my SOPs are in place, all my the bank accounts and the other things are in place while I'm actually expanding my wings under a franchise model. And top of it, my teams that are required to support a new business opportunity that will be taken care of by a third party investor are there in place. So not much of the legal pieces are required to for you to become a franchisor. That's something a very basic level of preparedness which is required for you to become a franchisor. Not much of it is required as such.
The next question is from Sarah Shah. So she says, has your company worked with any F&B brands? If yes, could you share a case study where F&B brand successfully used franchising to expand beyond its local market? I think Jatin, you can take this one.
Yeah, I can take this one. Yeah. So we have of course worked with an F&B brand, and of course there are multiple in the pipeline. In some cases it's an equity deal, in some cases it's non-equity. One of the brands which we worked with was Wakao Foods. Again, it's a Shark Tank brand. It was part of season 1 of Shark Tank. They are in the jackfruit space and they supply to hotel, restaurants, and cafes. In their case, of course, we suggested them that whatever their major part of business is, because they had supplied to 500 plus hotel, restaurants, and cafes. They were actually, in fact, working with Taj as one of their clients who were actually taking their jackfruit product. So we suggested them that we would create a partner model where partners could kind of buy from them and kind of supply in hotel, restaurants, and cafes in their respective cities. And very interestingly, in the first 3 months of collaboration, we were able to do 16 plus partners for them and help them grow from where they were at that point of time. And the entire year's goal is to kind of do 100 plus such partners with them. We also recommended them that they should actually in fact have a Wakao cafe model, where they could actually where a partner could essentially showcase the products which is possible from a jackfruit, which is essentially
Right.
say like a jackfruit biryani or a jackfruit burger, and then they would have two ways to kind of make their earning. They could actually have their own cafe through which they are earning, and they could also have a recurring income coming in through the hotel, restaurants, and cafes market, which they'll crack. So they'll essentially be supplying their jackfruit products to the Horeca market as well.
Right.
And I'm glad to kind of course share that they are going live with their first store in Goa in this month now, and they would of course be expanding their store model also with us very soon. So yeah, I mean this is just one such story, and of course we have done this with multiple brands now. And yeah, I mean happy to help your brand in this as well. Yeah.
So the next question is from Latika Sharma. What metrics or signals I, as a founder, should track to know if my franchise strategy is actually working? That's a very interesting question. Yeah. So I'd leave it to you all to answer this.
Yeah, I think Mr. Rai, if you want to take this one.
So you need to ensure there are certain metrics as a founder. If my franchisee strategy is actually working or not, you need to ensure and check out whether the business that is expected out of your franchisee partner is
Yeah.
something that was discussed and maybe is as per the expectations between both the parties. That's one. uh, Two is if your franchisee strategy is actually working in terms of you had shortlisted certain level of markets. Uh, are you actually marketing your brand or marketing your product in a proper way wherein you are able to get the relevant investors and you're able to franchise out your brand or not? Third is the strategy in terms of you cannot be selling all types of services at all the outlets, as I have been saying I have been defining that in my previous communication also. Not all the franchises will be able to sell all types of services because they will be operating their stores at the different markets. So you need to ensure that whatever the market demand is, you may customize the services that are to be rendered from that particular store accordingly. So that is something that you need to take care of, and rest is something that you will learn as and how you start up the franchising. I mean, just your views on it, please.
Yeah, I think makes complete sense. I think as a founder, of course, you would want to look at multiple metrics of how the performance is going, because in some cases the marketing cost may shoot up. Like we have been working with, say, a preschool brand, and there the marketing cost kind of is can go as high as 1,000 2,000 rupees per lead, and it's very essential that you know that if you have a franchise strategy in place, and if you're running certain ads, and if you're actually trying to convert a certain partner, the conversion, you would want to essentially not do it by burning us. And of course, there is certain investment which will be required. Say it may take a month or 2 month or 3 month to stabilize, but once it stabilizes, it needs to move towards stabilization, and you need to kind of clearly focus on the factors like how your marketing CAC is going on, how your sales conversions are going on. And if that doesn't stabilizes in 3 months also, then there is certain challenge, because what may end up happening is for every partner you add, you may end up losing a certain amount. And if you keep losing a certain amount, then say if I lose 5 lakh on every preschool added or every cafe added, and if I have to add, say, 100 such partners, then you can clearly see that I may require 5 crore of capital just to expand to 100 locations, and that is
Yeah.
not something which is feasible for most of the founders. So you need
Yeah.
to, of course, closely look at these numbers and metrics, how you have been performing, and of course reach a certain stage where you are able to break even. Because once you break even, then of course you can increase, like keep reducing the CAC, you can increase your profits, and then kind of keep scaling from there. Yeah.
And top of it, I mean, the early red flags could be something like if your franchisee is frequently missing out on the royalty payments or other reporting revenues, whatever. I mean, they have to do it on the monthly basis. Uh, High attrition of the staff at the franchisee places. If they are not able to maintain their staff properly, and they are not able to adhere to their SOPs, that is something which is early signal. Negative social media chatter, as has been confirmed by and rather defined by JS. Negative social media chatter or inconsistent service experiences by the customers, they are one of the early signals which will help you correct your path. Uh, could be the over expansion without the proportional brand support or a capacity that you had. Declining SSG in at few places. These are some of the early red signals that as a franchisor you'll be able to collect, and you'll be that will help you actually correct your path.
And we have another question from Nikita Jain. I think this is the last question that we will take. How can founders ensure that the brand DNA and customer experience remain consistent across all franchise outlets?
I I think it's a very beautiful and very good
Well
question,
thought
and
of
I'm sure
question, yes.
well thought of question, and I'm sure a lot of founders may have a similar question, and that's where the experience or the SOPs and everything kind of comes in play. And if you have run your own outlets, if you have run your own 10 outlet, 20 outlet, that gives you a clear idea of how it is. Like from your first outlet to second outlet, you may figure out that, hey, if I have to kind of replicate the success of my first outlet to my second outlet, I need to kind of maintain a consistency. That consistency can be, say, in the menu, in the experience, in say the admission, in, say, like in case of salons, of course, in how the feel and look of the place is. And that's something which is very critical, of course. Not only the look and feel of the place, but also how a customer kind of experiences the whole thing becomes very critical. But all that can only be achieved through the right SOPs in place. Unless and until any brand has the right SOPs in place, pulling that off becomes very difficult. If you are in an F&B business, you may want to make sure that all your food, say, comes from a central kitchen, or if that can kind of if it is coming from a factory, or like if the product are being purchased from the same source, so that there is a certain level of consistency there.
Standardization, basically. A lot of
Exactly.
standardization. Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of standardization in your in what you're delivering to your end customers, but
Yeah.
also standardization in terms of how your outlet will look and feel like in terms of the interiors of the outlet, and can you have, say, the same vendor pan India kind of to deliver that kind of outcome, and is there a brand guideline around it? Is there a color guideline? Is there a signage guideline? All of that which is there in place. So
Yeah.
once a lot of these things are kind of well thought of, put in a checklist, because every time you open a new outlet, you may have to kind of take care of, say, 100 different things, and are there SOPs around each of them is something which is very critical to
Yeah.
understand, and that needs to be kind of passed as a success recipe to a franchise partner, saying that, hey, we have done it exactly in this certain way in our 50 different outlets, and the 51st outlet which you're opening as a franchisee, if you follow the same recipe, you're
Format.
going to get the
Yeah.
same result, because you want to kind of achieve the same result, but if you're not able to follow the same recipe, you'll not get the same result, and hence the standardization, the SOP, the guideline, all of them kind of becomes really critical, really important, and that has come, of course, over a lot of learning, over a lot of failure, which the brand has invested in. So the brand may have invested 5 years, 10 years prior to that, to learn it the hard way, to spend their money in the wrong places, and then they may have known the 99 things which they don't have to do, and the one thing which that works, and that needs to be kind of passed consistently to the franchise partner for them to get result, and of course if they get the results, the brand also benefits from it. So it's a very critical question a founder needs to think on, and of course needs to apply to the whole process. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Jatin. So I think we've come to the end of this very insightful discussion. And I think I'd just simply like to conclude by saying that the takeaway is simple. Franchising is not a shortcut. It's repeatable systems, disciplined finance, strategy, quality monitoring. There is a lot that goes into it. And if you are a founder doing a 5 crore plus ARR and serious about scaling to 100 outlets, or preparing for fundraising or a strategic exit, 100x Growth Partners is offering a complimentary accelerators consultation with Jatin, Solanki, and Vivek. Please give it a go. Please do register for that. Thank you, Mr. Rai, for such a insightful conversation and for this vast perspective that you've given us. Thank you, Jatin, for the financial scaling framework. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. See you in the next episode of Franchise X Scale Your Future.
Thanks, Mr. Rai. It was really insightful and really good to have you on the session.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thanks, Palami.
Thank you.